Welcome back to Mr. Gard's maths class. Today we're going to be talking about expanding brackets with pronumerals. In order to expand brackets, we're going to be using the distributive law. That means multiplying what is inside the brackets with what is outside the brackets. So looking to the left in purple, we have a couple of equations or expressions. The first one is A brackets B plus C. Now it's really important to remember that when we see this A and then no symbol, it actually means A is multiplied by everything that fits inside the brackets. Same with the one below. So it's really A multiplied by everything that's inside those brackets. In order to do that, there's a couple of little tricks that you can use in order to make sure that you don't miss any of the steps. What I like to use is I like to multiply and do this by loops. So I'm going to go A multiplied by B. When we do that, we get AB, A times B. We then also have A multiplied by C. Now remembering that positive symbol belongs to the C. So it is positive A multiplied by positive C. So we get AC. We can join those up with an addition sign. The same principle applies to the one below. We need to show our loops because as our questions get harder and harder, it's extra important that we keep track of what we have multiplied. And this is good habits to get into now because when you are a couple of years down the track, you will find that these problems get much bigger. So A multiplied by B is AB. A multiplied by negative C becomes negative AC. They are just basic examples with no numbers involved. We're now going to do an example on the right in the black section. So this time, rather than just A, B, and C, we have some numbers and an X involved. So we'll use our light blue pen. What this is telling us is that we have 3 multiplied by everything that's inside the brackets. So we have 3 lots of 2x plus 4. You could write that as 2x plus 4 plus another 2x plus 4 plus another 2x plus 4. Now that would become a long convoluted way of writing out the same thing. It's just like when you have 3 times 7, we don't write 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 and so on. We're going to have a shortened version. So here we apply the same principles. 3 multiplied by 2x becomes 6x. This is stuff that we know from previous lessons. 3 multiplied by 4 is 12. And that's as simple as we can make this expression. 6x plus 12. We could have checked that with 2x plus 4 plus 2x plus 4 plus 2x plus 4. We can put them in brackets, not that it makes any mathematical difference, but the 2x, 2x, and 2x makes 6 of them. 4, 4, and 4 makes the 12. A somewhat more complicated example is over here in orange. This is where you're going to need to remember some of your work from like terms or collecting like terms. So according to our BIDMAS rules or BODMAS rules, you're going to need to do this stuff over at the brackets first, remembering that there's a multiplication symbol in there. So I'm going to rewrite out this first part as I'm not doing anything with that yet. Now we go 7x multiplied by 2 which is 14x, and then 7x, bearing in mind this is positive 7, 7x multiplied by negative y gives us a negative value of negative 7xy. Now, according to our work from previous lesson, we can group our like terms, and the only like terms we see here are the xy components. So we can combine them. Now, worth remembering that negative 7xy, the negative is part of this. So it is 12xy's minus 7xy's, which equals 5xy plus 14x. We cannot combine them any further. That is as simplified as we can make this, because x's are not the same as xy's. Now going to move on to a real life example, well, sort of. We're looking at a house blueprint here. So imagine the area inside here is the house floor plan, and the bit that I'm going to shade green is a deck. If the resident wanted to build a deck and they didn't know how long they could make the deck, where I've written the C value, they may, this is very hypothetical, but they may only be allowed to have the house to be an area, or have an area, of, let's say, 171 meters squared. Okay, so that's the total area of their house. They then need to know, how big can I make my deck if I'm going to put it on this end of the house? So firstly, we need to create an expression for the area of this house. So the area, A for area, is going to be equal to, as we can remember from doing area and volume, the area of a rectangle is the length multiplied by the width. So in this case, we'll call it 9 multiplied by the length here. And the length is this section. It is going to be 14 plus C. And C is the length of the deck, that we don't know how long we're going to make it. So if I was to now solve this using our rules, 9 multiplied by 14 is 126, and 9 plus 9C. Now, if the area of the house and deck can only be 171, this is where using a little bit of prior knowledge can work wonders. We subtract 126 from both sides, as we want to get C by itself ultimately. That will equal 45 on this side, 9C here. We don't want to know what 9 lengths of the deck are. We want to know what 1 length. So we divide both sides by 9. And it equals 5. Therefore, we've been able to use algebra and expanding brackets to work out the length, or the maximum length, this person's allowed to build their deck based on the area of the land or the house and deck size. Hopefully that's given you a little bit more understanding of expanding brackets. Please re-watch it. Remember to show your loops, because as I said, it is a good habit to get into before the questions get harder and harder. Thank you for listening.